Hello and welcome to the open meeting of Autistic Association that is behind AutisticRadio.com, the charity that we as autistic people created ourselves to make this project move forward. Last week we had a lovely email from a researcher who is looking at creating an app for young children, and there was some discussion, and there was also a bit of snippiness from myself about the way the communication had happened. I'd received an email and it looked as though I'd been shut down. Fortunately, the person who was involved in this heard our broadcast and they got in contact with me to say, "Hey Jules, you've got it all wrong. I actually didn't read your email. The way I send emails is in the wrong order for her." And so I invited the person back. I invited the person to drop in at the 444 with the rest of the gang in a very informal setting. And the first part of our 444 discussion on Sunday was having a chat with a person and making them welcome. And what I take from this is how lovely it was for that professional to overcome our misunderstanding, overcome our miscommunication, and still come and speak with us. And when they had come and speak with us, they said they felt comfortable in our company and happy to go ahead and make a recording with us about their project. So, sorry for the misunderstanding, and thank you very much for being the kind of person who is willing to work through these things with autistic people. Do you think that covers our misstep, guys?
Yeah, I would say so. I didn't even realise that's what it was, to be honest. Sorry if I not sorry, just it doesn't matter. What the point was, it was a very good discussion. It was very, I don't want to say relaxed, it was quite intense in many places, but it was good and it was very inclusive, and it was good that things move forward that way, because that's the thing that sometimes feels it's the problem, is things don't move on. It just feels like hitting your head off a brick wall, actually, or if something just stops. So yeah, I would say it was very progressive, and it's good that sometimes the journeys, even if through misunderstandings, can move forward that way.
I'm going to include the text, and it's a text from our conversation before I started recording, and it's G.R. Robertson. He says, "It's giving my time to this project, Autistic Radio, and also hoping that someone will hear it, and that someone will feel a connection, and that someone will feel less isolated, and that someone understands, and then it continues for them." So thank you, GR. That's a lovely thing to include in our meeting. Ray, after the meeting starting, says, "I'm glad that they got the Autistic Radio experience." And I think they did. I think they went away thinking, wow, this group is different from their previous experiences. They came to us because an autistic person who listens in recommended them and said, "I'm a colleague of yours. You've got this project. Go and speak to these guys." I'm not convinced that actually a co-production with this particular person is something that we're going to pursue, but we'll find out about that when we have a full-on discussion. Is that a reasonable way? Is that a reasonable way forward?
Yeah, I agree with that. You don't need to commit. Just see how it goes.
Does anybody want to bring up anything else before I move to the next item? So the next item is our co-production with the Restraint Reduction Network. The Restraint Reduction Network works as a professional group to decrease the amount of times all people, but including autistic people in the kind of settings that are institutionalized, have to be jumped upon by all the staff and supposedly safely put in a position where they won't harm themselves. So reducing the amount of times that the nuclear option of restraining somebody is applied has to be something that we as a group, as an autistic group, are behind, even though the group themselves come from a background of behaviourism, and that's controversial to most people. The people themselves that we are going to be speaking to are not the stereotype. they do care. I also have said out loud and in an email to Harry that it's 3 years that it's taken us to bang on doors, have them shut in our faces, but gradually get little opportunities to describe the Autistic Radio model of including people, creating equity in the communication. And I've said that I think this is the last conference that we should be doing this. This is the end of this journey now, and we need to move on to something else. I think that if after the amount of times that we have presented ourselves in different ways, we're not getting any traction, we're not getting co-productions, then we have to think about it differently. But we are getting co-productions at the moment, so maybe pushing it too far or again isn't worthwhile to us. What do people think?
Well, I think it's a natural end to a journey. I mean, the discussion that we had on email, I was saying in my response was, I'm happy to take your lead on this and agree to take, well, as I put it, take a back seat following the conference. A lot of hard work has been done, and a lot of flack from all directions has happened as well, just as part of the journey. But we've taken the Autistic Radio and Autistic Association to a very advanced stage, and that I look forward to the event itself. And it feels like an adventure that's been it's been lived from my perspective, from seeing, from beginning to the present. And I feel it just feels natural just to move on, because you can do something for too long and it becomes a bit stagnant, it becomes frustrating. It just feels that the journey and the progress has been made, despite the hurdles, has been very beneficial, and it's sometimes better to move on and try something fresh. That's what I'm thinking, out loud at the moment.
I feel that if you get the feeling that the work has been done to the best you could and whatever reaction you got, but I think people naturally know when it's time to maybe leave well alone. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the end of the journey and it feels that way, then it's not a bad thing.
There's something very thoughtful in a text from Ray here. What would be the alternative to this kind of co-production, if any? Maybe other neurodivergent groups? And the question posed is, how much is connection a part of our process? I'm not going to give a off-the-cuff answer to that. I think that's something we need to explore together. I'm not sure about other neurodivergent groups. I think we may at the moment be seen by quite a lot of people who feel that they have some kind of authority in autism, that we are already collaborating with people that they would not work with. So there might be a little bit of sting of that we'll see how that works. Privately, I get a lot of encouragement from neurodivergent people that have been out there, but when they're in groups, it kind of goes against their policy to even have these conversations.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's kind of how I thought you would answer as well, given the experience over the past year of our communications over this. It's also an open question, of course, and reflecting a little bit on what GR said previously about the idea that being heard, perhaps, of contributing in some way, this idea of connecting, this process that we're all in through participation here.
Well, unless anybody has anything else to say, I want to keep this really quiet, really short, and just put this out so that the rest of our members and people who are interested can hear what we're doing here at Autistic Radio and get involved when they feel like it and comment. That's all, folks.